Multiverse! Hello, I am Jake Lloyd Bacon. I am a New Yorker who loves pop culture, comic books, and co-hosts who properly record their side of the podcasts. And I am here with writer, poet, friend of the animals. She's my future wife, my current ex-girlfriend. It's Alexandra Hoey. Hi, Alexandra.
Hello, Internet.
So, last year, in the middle of the year at some point, Coy Jandro no-showed a podcast recording. We will not let him live this down, Hoeycast listeners. At that point, you stepped up.
Right.
Okay. We admitted on that program, I did ask a few other folks.
Yep. I just happened to live there with you, right there.
Unlike last time, how sad is it that there's a last time? You were the first choice. First choice to come fill in.
In fairness, still very limited in your options.
No, that's not fair. Come on now. I didn't even bother reaching out. Who knows? Greg Album probably would have done. He would have been more than happy to chat with me. So
anyway,
if you're
that's
a patron,
so nice.
If you're a patron, you already know this. A couple days ago, Coy and I recorded a huge 2023 letterbox.
How big?
It was huge. 2023 letterbox stats episode. It was enlightening. It was funny. We not only looked back at what happened in our years, and like the patterns that we saw, but we also gave each other homework for 2024.
Awesome.
It was.
When do we hear this? When do we get to hear about it?
So about that.
Yeah.
Coy did not record his side of the conversation.
What?
In Los Angeles, where he
is
supposed to record his side of the.
That
night he sent me files that were blank.
Oh.
So that episode is lost forever, you guys.
That's a tragedy.
Coy is traveling and could not hop on to do anything in its place.
That's legit tragic. I know you both were very sad.
So many things. So not only did we I made an entire spreadsheet of our 2022 stats. We contrasted and compared.
Wow.
Neither one of us looked at our letterbox stats before that date, like in between New Year's and the time of recording, which I think was like the 8th or whatever it was a few days ago. So it was like pure. Neither one of us knew who our most watched were, how many hours. It was a gorgeous, super fun, super exciting conversation, at least for Coy and I, that no one will ever hear.
Well, you know what? It was a great tender moment for just the two of you.
It was just a part of our friendship.
It was guy love.
We also took a bunch of hotline calls. And I'm not going to retake those here with Alexandra, especially because a few of them were specifically
for Coy.
Towards Coy. But a shout out to Edward Collins and Benoit, I think, called, and Harold Stokes and some of our great, fantastic Hoeycast listeners. So here's the thing. Coy's like, oh, it's great. We'll just do the next time we record. We'll just do stats again. I'm not going to allow that to happen. I'm sorry, everybody. Follow Coy Jandro, no underscore now. He with the help of Robin West Parker, he explained to me on the show that no one can hear forever and ever again. He finally got his letterbox to not have an underscore in it, so it's just at Coy Jandro.
Oh.
Find him on letterbox. Go look at his stats. I'm not going to listen to them again. And it's not because I'm very angry at him.
Are you sure?
No, I'm not sure.
Maybe you just need a few more days and some cake.
A few more days and some cake. See, this is get yourself someone who knows you. Everybody out there,
or ice cream.
So listen, this is the time of the year where we generally do that thing that we did that is gone forever.
A rundown.
The last time you were here, it was the episode, coincidentally, where we were supposed to do our lifetime stats.
Do you think it's a curse? It's like some sort of curse.
It's that guy who commented on Apple Podcasts and said, the letterbox episodes are the worst. He has like put in a curse. In that episode that you filled in, we just took a look at your lifetime. I don't want you to just be the person who comes and just reads letterbox stats. Because that seems unfair to you because people are more interested in hearing you talk about other things.
Are we sure? Let's talk about stats.
A little bit. But what I thought what we could do is we could take a glance at our stats.
Oh, a little mini stat.
Maybe we could talk about some of our favorites of the year. And then at least, the people have a little something in the main feed.
Love it.
Instead of nothing.
Okay. Let's give the people a little something then.
Yeah. You got your phone ready. You got your letterbox at Alexandra Hoey, Hoey. Right? There's no underscore nothing in your letterbox name, right?
Fuck if I know.
All right. Fine then.
Hold on. How do I see that?
I don't know. Never mind. I don't even. Fuck if I know.
I mean, it's probably that because that's what it usually is everywhere else.
Okay.
But it looks like it. Yeah, I think it's that. It's just my name.
Okay. Alexandra Hoey, Hoey.
Correct.
That's where she is. I'm, as always, at Jake Lloyd Bacon.
So what? I'm going to 2023.
Yeah, go to 2023 stats.
Okay.
And let's take a gander. Because if it's good for the goose, it's good to take a gander.
Well, you and I haven't had our stats moment. Like you and Coy had a stats moment, and now we're having a lover's stats moment.
Oh, how romantic. Okay, so
yes.
How many total? What's your totals?
117 movies of the year. There were several I did not log just because there were like a few rewatches. For instance,
you can log a rewatch. It even has an option that says...
I literally couldn't. I could not do it anymore because one of the rewatches was like one of the Harry Potters.
On the plane back from Edinburgh.
Thanks for cutting me off.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I was curious if that's what it was.
I was in the middle of speaking.
Oh my gosh, geez Louise. Imagine if she did that to Coy, you guys. Never get through an episode.
What if I did do that to Coy and then we just kept going and it was a funny little bit, just like we're doing right now. Anyway, yeah, no, it was on the plane ride back. The 13-hour or whatever it was.
The Potter movies do tend to destroy my stats every year. But I did not watch them this year.
They've literally destroyed my lifetime stats, so I can't. I mean, the reality is I probably have even seen them more than they're recorded in the app. But
well, of course, yeah.
And all the franchises because they're kind of like comfort blankets, you know? Like I don't even always necessarily fully watch them. They'll just be on or something.
Oh, that's fair.
Those sort of movies, not just Harry Potter, but like Lord of the Rings or whatever. But anyway, 117. 117.
I got to 140 this year. But that means you still hit your second milestone. Do you have your diary milestones down below? It's below your first and last.
Yes.
Yeah. When did you hit your 50th?
On June 9th with Enough Said.
Oh, I got there just ahead of you on June 2nd.
Yes.
And what about your 100th?
Yeah, my 100th was on October 12th with Werewolves
and I was a little bit ahead of you there on September 28th. I got to 100. Neither one of us got to 150. That's my goal for next year because I was only 10 away. My goal for 2024 is to get to the 150.
I think I did in a previous year, actually.
Really?
Uh-huh. I was looking at these not long ago.
I find that surprising because I feel like we tend to watch movies together and then I watch movies on my own and it's more rare. Not that you don't sometimes.
I watch plenty of things
but
on my own.
But it's more rare, I think, because your work schedule.
I just opened 2021 and I had watched 171 movies that year.
Wow. Well, there you go.
I'm sure you did too.
I don't know. I think it's just because I'm such a bum and you work so hard that I end up watching more crap from you.
Well, no, this is the thing though. There's an askew there because I watch more like limited series and stuff.
100%.
Daisy Jones and the Six. I'm watching The Fall of the House of Usher right now.
Right.
I've watched all those Mike Flanagan shows, which are very long. You know, there's like 8 to 10 like hour-long, like true hour-long episodes for those shows. And I feel like there's nowhere for that information to live. I think I did end up recording them in Letterboxd, which you feel like is a cheat. I don't think I gave them a review though. Like I didn't give them stars because I'm like, it's not a movie, but it's also more than just a show. You're committing to this contained story.
Yeah, I still think just for the sake of stats, I don't like that stuff because I don't want it to be like, oh, this was your most watched director or your most watched. It's like, no, that doesn't count.
But that's never going to be the case most likely with a show because the show is just it's considered one entity.
I know, that's the problem. That's what I'm getting at. It's not fair. It skews things.
I guess it depends on how you look at letter. What do you guys think? Is it listeners? Do you or do you not record TV shows or limited series? Is it a cheat?
Koi isn't here, so they should all agree with me.
What?
Not gonna happen.
Think for yourselves, people.
What's your average per month and average per week?
Average per month, average per week. 9.8 per month, 2.2 per week.
There you go. All right, so you're still watching 10 movies a month. I'm going to assume that we both have the same giant gap. I was talking with Koi about this, where there was nothing logged throughout all of our move, like from September or from August 11th to September something. It's right there, that big gap in the weeks. Do you have the same one?
I have a gap there. I also have a gap in March.
Yeah, because of our travel.
Oh, yeah. Because the road trip.
Well, we had a road trip. We had my birthday, then the road trip, and then overseas.
Yeah, well, that was in July.
Oh, that was right. That was in July.
And that didn't cease.
We definitely share the same first film of 2023 because we watched it together.
We usually do.
The Menu.
So The Menu was the first movie.
But we had two very different last films.
Yeah, so it's not always my birthday, but usually my last film of the year falls on my birthday, which is December 26th.
Yes.
Because then with the nature of my work, I'm usually really busy up and through the new year. So my last movie of the year was Iron Claw, which was a great way to go out.
We'll talk about that.
5-star for me.
We're going to talk about that in a little while. Because Koi and I on the Patreon only podcast next week that nobody will hear. I talked about Iron Claw for 10 minutes with him, and I would love to get into it with you for the listeners for the first time. My final movie was Super Mario Brothers. So I started with The Menu, and I ended with Super Mario Brothers. So I don't know what that tells you about where I started the year versus
they're basically the same, right?
They're basically the same. Yeah. My year was dominated by Jennifer Lawrence. She was my most watched star.
How do you feel about that?
Fantastic, especially because she's also such highly rated this year as well. The lowest rating I gave at any of the movies I watched of hers was No Hard Feelings, was 3 stars, but still it was great. It was just,
she was also my most watched, and that's because you and I watched all the Hunger Games. So
and No Hard Feelings and Don't Look Up.
Yes.
See, I watched one more because I watched The Beaver a week or two ago. In which she plays across Anton Yelchin for like the 8th time in a movie, and I had no idea, and she's so good in it. And then the rest of my most watch are all people who were in the Lethal Weapon movies, and then one other thing we watched. So they're all in that range because I watched all the Lethal Weapons for the POP.
That's really funny.
Who was your most watched director this year?
Let's see.
The category below it there.
Yeah, so my most watched director was actually Lasse Hallström, who did Chocolat famously, which is one of my favorite movies. But we had I had shown you What's Eating Gilbert Grape,
right?
And then I think a listener asked you to watch Dear John, if I'm not mistaken, and I ended up watching that with you. So,
but wait, what's the other one? Because Chocolat wasn't this year. We didn't watch that this year together.
So you rewatched
I
watch Chocolat every year.
That's what I was saying. So I didn't realize
that's a rewatch. That's a comfort watch for me.
Oh, that's fun. Mine, because of Lethal Weapons, was Dick Donner, was my most watched for the year.
So you had a lot of Dick.
I had a ton of Dick this year. So best of the year. We actually went and saw more movies this year than most recent years prior. Especially like pandemic, we didn't see shit, and we went and saw.
We saw literally one movie in the pandemic.
Well, it was just when Marvel would release something, we'd be like, well, we should have to go, and then that we
like in 2021
because we didn't see Quantumania, but there's a lot of stuff we ended up not seeing in the theater.
Yeah, I wonder.
And we didn't do that this year either. We didn't go see Marvels. The only thing we saw in the theater this year was
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, that was the only Marvel product.
Is that really the only one from the year?
Yep, that we saw in the theaters. Yep.
Was Black Panther not this year?
Nope, I think that was last year.
Oh, I'm mixing up my.
But I have 3 5-star movies this year.
I do too.
Are they all the same ones?
I have.
Probably not.
They're the exact same ones.
Wait, really?
I can see from here.
I didn't realize that you liked.
Wait, no.
No, I'm sorry.
You said you have 3 5-star movies.
Yes.
Do you not have 4?
Nope. I have 3.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, because from here.
My 3 are Barbie, Guardians, and Iron Claw.
Those are my 3.
Yeah. Okay. Great.
Because it sounded like you were about to say Dungeons and Dragons.
I did. I screwed up. I was
okay. Yeah. See, I caught you.
I have 4.5.
Yeah, I gave that 4.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So Barbie, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and the Iron Claw were my 3 5-star.
We gave them the same ratings. Oh, we're so simpatico. So let's talk. You talked all about Guardians because that was when you were on the show the last time after we had seen that.
Oh, and I talked about
that. And
we
talked all about it, I think, on the POP, on the Patron Only Pod. Because I think you read your review out because it's really beautiful and it was about your experience with the Guardians. I highly suggest if you haven't listened to the POP from what I'm going to assume is June, July last year. It would have been first week of July or so. Check that out. It's fantastic. So we talked all about that. What are your thoughts on Barbie? As we listen, we never get the ladies' touch on this program. we gushed about why we thought it was good, but he's literally he's got major Kenergy.
He's just Ken.
He's such a bro, and
Coy has major Kenergy. Yes,
and I'm more of an Alan.
I don't think you're an Alan. I have to do a deep dive in my brain here for a minute to think about which doll you are. But...
I'm neither of them. I'm the guy that owns Mattel. I'm Will Ferrell.
Oh goodness.
I'm him just being like, we gotta have this shit under control. I'm like, why didn't you hit record? Why couldn't you tell your side was recording?
But yeah, I mean, okay. First of all, it's a Barbie movie, which you hear about it and you go, this could either be great or terrible. Right. I obviously grew up playing with Barbies. I shouldn't say obviously, but it's probably like a safe bet, right?
Sure.
Like, a person of my generation. Yeah. And so I went into it pretty open-minded, thinking it could be fun. I think the only hesitation I had going into it was like, how much of this feels like you're going off of an existing IP in a sense, like this big, huge, like a thing it's just this huge recognizable name.
Sure.
And one could argue it's like, oh, it's a movie about a Coca-Cola can. Like, it's just like, it feels like Capitalism, the movie, right? Like, that's like, I had a similar feeling when they came out with like the Lego movie. Like, I was just like, what, why are we making a movie about this? But simultaneously, I think there is the biggest difference, of course, is it's a toy and not we haven't gone so far as to like have necessarily like a Coke can or whatever. But yeah, so I did have a little bit of that cynicism in the back of my mind, like, oh, is this going to be really like capitalist driven or something? Right. But I think that was easily squashed aside, going into it fairly open-minded because Greta Gerwig was at the helm. I was like, this has to be good because she's doing it. Like, everything she's done, I've loved.
Yeah, her directing it and then her and Baumbach co-writing.
And also the fact that Baumbach, like, I love that they're married, they're a team, it's 100%. Great. The fact that he's also part of the writing is so funny and weird. Like,
perfect.
He's such a weird, delightful brain, and I think that addition to her vision is very fun.
I would argue like the last name I think would be associated with Barbie would be Noah Baumbach.
One of a few of those. It's like Lars von Trier and Barbie.
right.
You know, I'm just trying.
In fairness, that would be a really interesting.
In fairness,
movie.
I want to see that one.
Yes,
but yes.
But they succeeded in making it not just a capitalistic nightmare. In fact, it was just a celebration. You know what? It was earnest, not capital. Like any celebration of the intricacies of the actual toy and humans' experience with the toy was earnest and honest. It was like more of a love letter to the childhood and to the product than like go buy this thing. And the fact that it wasn't all new. It's not like every new superhero movie where it's like you got to like back in the the Schumacher days, like you need to change the Batman suit and then change the Batmobile because we need to sell a new toy. It was the opposite of that. They actually instead were showing crap from the 70s and 80s, not like, here's this new thing that you're going to go buy. So I think it circumvented that also just by not being like overtly a kid's movie either.
Overtly kids movie. I also would say, as far as all that goes, that it was... you almost forget that you're watching anything to do with Barbie. Outside of the inside jokes of it all, which I did really appreciate as someone who had grown up playing with Barbies. I'm like, oh my God, Alan, ew, like no one likes Alan.
There were definitely a few moments where you got some giggles I didn't, where I was like, oh, she recognized some shit.
Well, and there's just some really funny, weird jokes too that are just happening. Like I was watching that THR interview that she's talking about like the Proust Barbie joke, and like there's just so many fun weird moments,
deep cuts
that are very deep cut and very fun that have nothing to even do with Barbie. They're just, and that's why what I was going to say is ultimately it feels more like a tool, a representation of like, hey, this is our channel to talk about gender issues and whatever else, humanity versus Barbie as a product. Yeah. I mean, I was into it instantly because I it's just very much my shit, like an existentialist sort of exploration of life and what does it all mean, and you know, obviously there's some more surface level, I don't want to say surface level, but kind of expected messages that I think were very needed though.
Right.
For whether that's sad or not that it's still being said, like, oh, we should love our bodies no matter what they look like. And, you know, America Ferrera's speech is so gorgeous and delightful. And I'm thinking, you know, I cried. I know so many people cried listening to that. And I think for other people, maybe it was their first time considering that perspective. And which is what I'm saying is like, oh, it's so interesting to me that someone would hear her speech and be like, and not be crying with recognition, but instead be illuminated. Like, really? You didn't think about that?
Yeah, you know, I think you didn't watch Blue Beetle with me. But when I was talking with Coy, I think on the POP about Blue Beetle, I talked about how we're at this weird impasse where like stories that are either by or about marginalized people that are intended to represent and to like teach, if you like, you as a woman watching something kind of can go like, yeah, obviously, like America Ferrera's speech, you could be like, yeah, this is a thing that we didn't need to tell people this, right? But in actuality, like, I think because the masses maybe aren't as far ahead of that liberal curve as we all want them to be, like, we end up having to write things that seem. And that's a bad example because that speech is actually just fucking great. But more the smaller things.
I get what you're talking about, though. Is at the end of the day, this is a movie. Every movie generally is going to decide what their audience is, and then they're going to write for that audience. Right. And so, unlike maybe a Noah Baumbach movie, even though he's part of the writing, at some point, everyone involved, Greta at the helm said, we do want to actually appeal to the widest denominator possible, which means that, we're going to throw in this Proust joke, but we also need to have enough recognizable themes and details that some Joe Schmo in the middle of Oklahoma, it reaches them and they get it, you know?
Well, wasn't that part of the thing in her interview too, where she talked about where when they realized the scale, where they're like, all right, this movie's going to have to cost this much money to make
You're thinking of the Margot Robbie interview.
Oh, was it Margot? Right. Where she was like,
we need a really big budget just because that's what this is a 4-quadrant movie, and it's just the story necessitates that. And then on top of that, you know, people are really uncomfortable, or they're asking us, oh, should we really be doing this? Or we don't like that. And they're like, that's nice. You know, we're going to work through that comfort, but we're still going to do it. Like, and the thing that Margot was saying is Greta said, we have to just drive it like we stole it. Like, keep going.
What I was going to say though, was when they talked about constantly getting the feedback of like, guys aren't going to go see a Barbie movie,
but they'll see a good movie.
And then she was like, yeah, but you know what? But guys will go see a good movie.
Yes, exactly.
So if word gets out,
yes,
like,
and that's again like writing for the widest possible audience you can, if that was what you want to do,
right?
And I appreciate that that's how it turned out. Like, I will still say that there's some weird touches that felt like this movie has a little something for everyone. And I think that's why it's a 5-star for me, is that there were weird touches that I think some people go, oh my God, that appeals to me and my weirdness. And I get that. But then there are some very what's the word I want? Just some really universal truths that anyone could get, whether or not you liked the weird things. Yeah. And there was all kinds of genius touches too, that just like, were so appealing to me. I don't know what it was. I haven't even rewatched it. I should rewatch it just to like form an even better sort of stance. But like the way that everyone even moved, like how Barbie floats from her house, because that's how you play Barbies. Like they don't go down the stairs. There's just little things that are so great, just great touches. And then everything to do with Ken. When in that movie, he's just Ken, you know, whatever. But he ended up being such a delightful fucking character.
Right.
And I was here for his whole journey. I was a big fan of the whole dream ballet and the song and all of it. Like,
Right.
The Matchbox 20 joke.
It's
like
so good.
It's all just so patriarchy. It's just also his job's just beach. Like it's so great.
Every little nuance of the
any movie where we all get to have a little bit of like inside jokes that we create for ourselves out of, I also feel like is really fun.
Well, we obviously again we need to talk about Iron Claw just because it's minutes, but looking back at other stuff that came out this year, any other like highlights or surprises or letdowns? Oh, I mean, there's a letdown that you and I both just watched very recently.
Was that in 2023? Because that's the year we're talking about?
Yeah. That is, yes,
I was like, ooh.
Correct. Welcome to the premise.
Listen, which one?
I was talking about Maestro.
Oh, right. Yeah, so I don't know if you and I are in the margins about that or not. It looks like it is like a 3-star movie, so people are divided.
People are stating that like, yeah, it's good, but
it felt too Oscar bait for me. It was, and I hate to say it. Here's the thing. Love Bradley Cooper. I actually think directorially it was great and lovely. And learning about the commitment he put into it and the 6 years training and all of this stuff, like it sort of breaks my heart that it didn't turn out for me or for other audience members the way I think he wanted it to turn out for everyone.
I think that movie is at its best when it is 4 to 6 minutes uninterrupted orchestral performances.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is like that doesn't really make up the movie. Do you know what I mean? Like that's just like, oh, also we can do this. Look at how good this is. Look at how great this sounds. Look, you're dealing with like it's one of those things where it's a cheat code because you're dealing with music that's already been proven to be outstanding.
Right.
So it's not like, oh, we're going to perform original music and hopefully it's good enough to capture an audience. So the music we already know is incredible because it's already been celebrated. And then we have what is an incredible orchestra performance is and his incredible ability, like learning how to conduct the way that Leonard Bernstein did.
All of that was stunning.
But then the rest of it, you go like, yeah, okay, we were there, we watched it.
I actually have the exact same complaints about this movie I do about Napoleon.
Oh,
Except that I give Napoleon a slight edge, which I could get into. But I will say this is the ultimate problem with both, is that with Maestro, you have these gorgeous orchestral scenes. Right. Napoleon, you have these, arguably to me, the best war scenes I've ever seen in a movie.
Couldn't agree more.
Okay, right? And then everything else almost feels like dressing, and it's not going deep enough, especially into the pinnacle relationship at which the movies are centered around.
Yeah.
And that's a little problematic. And the problem with, since we're on Maestro, I think that it felt a little bit like it was lacking in identity, weirdly enough.
Yes, 100%.
It was like, okay, this is a man who maybe wasn't fully honest about his sexuality for the longest time with himself, and that impacted his romantic relationship with the woman he married. But none of it ever delved deep enough. It felt sort of, I don't know, like
it didn't feel like there was an arc at all.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like there was a ton of growth through yes, we understand like it got to a point where she had enough and he had to learn, he had to lose and whatnot. But it all felt like it's one of those things where there's a reason why. Once again, we'll get to it, but there's a reason like movies like Iron Claw that are biopics play with the truth a little bit for dramatic effect. It's almost like they went, no, we're just going to tell you things that happened in Leonard Bernstein's life.
And I was going to say,
because of that, the story is lacking.
It's also just incredibly depressing because, spoiler alert, skip over this if you don't want to know, but, his wife eventually dies of cancer and he takes care of her in her final, however long, once she was diagnosed until she passed, months.
Right.
And it's really depressing because the way the story is told, and I admittedly don't know much about Bernstein or their relationship, but from what I could just see on a quick wiki, it looks like, like, I don't know. I would have liked a little more depth to that story, and ultimately it just felt incredibly depressing.
Can I say that is a great segment for the show from now on? Anytime there's a biopic that comes out, we're gonna have quick wiki with Alexandra Hoey.
Quickie wiki,
where you just really quickly Wikipedia and go, okay, this didn't happen, that didn't happen, this did happen.
But I'm sure I'm not alone in this. Like, everyone else, like when you see a movie like this, you immediately read everything
100%.
Online you can find about it, right?
100%.
Because that's what I do.
Yeah, I did the same thing with Napoleon. I was like,
I went into Napoleon with a little bit more knowledge because I'm just interested in history, and Napoleon's always been an interesting character. I think for a lot of people, clearly there's been dozens of movies like that.
Right.
But yeah, Napoleon suffered the same issue a little bit. I gave it the edge just because for the difference between the battle scene versus the orchestral scene, the battle scenes were so damn good that I was like, this at least gets an extra half star for just
because it's so compelling.
It's so mesmerizing. Yeah. And it is an important part of the story. It does push the story along.
Yeah, there's still that one thing that we talked about with the covering the ears that did not track for me, and I still question the was it Ridley Scott? I forgot who directed
Ridley Scott. Yes.
I still question the decisions. We talked about it when we were leaving.
You're talking about the Battle of Waterloo?
No, just like the decision of when he doesn't cover his ears, and how there's that one moment where you feel like when he feels like it's lost, he should stop, but he goes back to covering it. You remember that moment when he plugs his ears after the cannon fire?
And this is why, I can't say anything more about that movie because I really want to watch. Apparently, his intended
the real
vision.
One. Oh, that was such a bummer to find out.
I know, which we didn't find out till after the fact, but. I mean, it was worth seeing in theaters, I suppose, just for how beautiful
just for the spectacle
it was visually, but whatever. Anywho's.
Other honorable mentions for the year, at least on my list here. Theater Camp, absolutely loved it.
Fun movie.
Such a fun movie, so heartfelt. I felt so seen. Haunted Mansion, way
surprisingly
better.
Surprisingly good.
Should have came out around.
It was
Halloween.
So poignant.
Yeah, should have came out around Halloween and was better than everybody gave it credit for. I really enjoyed Super Mario Brothers. I really enjoyed Asteroid City.
Asteroid City. I'm a huge Wes Anderson fan. It wasn't like an instant 5-star Wes Anderson movie for me personally, but it was still a delight.
Air.
I really liked Renfield. I know you didn't care for it.
I mean, it
wasn't a perfect movie by any means, but it was fun, and I want more horror movies like that again. I'm excited for the potential for that.
Well, let's talk about your birthday. It was your birthday, and on your birthday every year, you get to pick a movie, and this is what you like to do. You don't like to make a big hullabaloo at your birthday, and this year you chose The Iron Claw.
I did. And actually, I chose Poor Things, and then
that's a good point. I apologize.
I chose Poor Things, and then where we were at for my birthday wasn't easily to go see that. And so I was like, well, what's another movie I've been dying to see? Right. And Iron Claw was the other one that I'd been really wanting to see.
So, how much, and by the way, full spoiler talk for Iron Claw. Claw. Full spoiler alert. We are going to crown the unpunchable gift horse of the month, which I already did with Coy, but I'm just going to tell you who it is in a little while. But other than that, this will probably be the last thing we chat about.
Okay.
So if you want to just keep hitting the zip forward, if you're worried about getting Iron Claw spoilers, now is the time to do that.
Yeah. So
what did you know?
Some listeners may or may not know this. I got into pro wrestling because of you. It very much felt like once I started dating you, it was like, well, I either got to hop on this or choose to hop off it. Not our relationship, but like.
I like to imagine that. Oh man, it's I'm either on this or I'm off of the relationship.
I mean, I suppose that too.
I gave her an ultimatum, and I was like, "Listen, you can either watch wrestling or we're over."
Yeah, right. No, but I knew I was like, this seems like a kind of big part of his personality. Like he's pretty into it, so I should give it a shot. The thing is, I wasn't going into it without any sort of interest in that sort of thing because I had been previously really into UFC for a little while in my 20s, and like I like. Fighting. I like fighting. Like, you know,
real.
UFC I did fall out of because it is very real. And I started watching at a time when they had already put in so many rules, right? It wasn't even as horrible anymore. Sure. But anywho's, so yeah, you fast forward, got into wrestling. And even to the point where you and I have another podcast. Me, you, and 30 Other Men, all about the Royal Rumble of WWE. And so I went into this having known, well, this is the thing. I had heard the name, definitely.
Sure.
Just because it comes up here and there somehow, some way.
The Von
Erich, which the Von Erich family is what this movie is based on. Before we saw this movie, I actually was like having one of my not sleeping well nights. And so I stumbled across probably I'm guessing an ad for this that made me want to do a quick wiki. And then I just stumbled down a research hole for like several hours, just reading about the tragedies that befell this family and their triumphs too, but mostly the horrible tragedies that befell this family. And so when I went into this movie, I already knew how everyone died. I knew everyone's names and, you know, all the major highlights basically. And so therefore I went into it thinking this is going to be sad. I'm sure it's going to be really well done and lovely. Will it be an all-time favorite? I doubt it. It's not like I necessarily went in thinking that.
See, I actually, because of the A24 of it all and knowing what I know of the family, I was sort of expecting a twist. I was expecting
like
something more horror.
Fictional? Oh.
No.
Or like a Once Upon a Time in Hollywood kind of thing?
No. More like more like a like a metaphysical or some sort of interpretation of the reality. So,
yes,
I thought this movie was going to be truly about a curse, like a witches style, you know what I mean? I thought it was going to be like some manifestation.
I think I really scarred you showing you the witch. This is what actually happened.
No, but that because of the A24, I was like expecting something, and then
you were expecting some real magic.
I was expecting something that was unique, and then
can we pause for a second? Are you trying to say that curse wasn't real?
No,
it clearly is.
This is what I was saying. What was so beautiful about the movie is that they did kind of do that, but by just playing it really straight.
Yes.
And by playing it from Carrie's, I always forget the name. Kevin is Zac Efron's character. See, the Von Erichs are so hard to keep track. I believe it's Kevin.
It's Kevin.
Yes. Thank you. So by playing the entire thing through.
Carrie is Mr. Jeremy Allen White.
Kevin is the one
Mr. Calvin Klein.
That's the Texas Tornado who went to the E. But by playing it all from his perspective, even though we do spend time with everybody, he's definitely
Kevin is the lead protagonist,
line, and it's as the survivor, which is crazy that we even call it that. It makes sense for us to do that, and by doing that and keeping us intimate with him, the pressure of the curse is very prominent.
Yes,
and then halfway through the movie, again, we're going deep spoilers here, kids. When damn it, now I have to do it. When David's ghost appears, I remember thinking, no, we've gone this far without A24ing it, that I was a little worried.
Yeah, you told me after the fact, which is so funny because I never had that fear.
I was like, oh, well, you know what it was? Is I didn't want it to turn into the father from
6 Feet Under.
6 Feet Under.
Sure.
I was worried.
Or Dexter, if you've watched Dexter.
Yeah, I didn't, and the reality is it didn't. It was simply just a beautiful little decision, I don't know if that was in the script, if that was the director. I know they're the same person, so whoever. It was the creator's vision for this one beautiful moment to just feel the presence, and it was so gorgeous and crushing, and it just tore me in such a great way. And I think the reason why at the end of it all, this movie was so astounding to me and it hits me so hard was that it should simply just be sad. It should just be depressing. It should just be horrible and horrifying. Yet somehow, at the end of the movie, you leave feeling so hopeful and inspired. And I would argue even a bit joyous about like the magic of brotherhood. Like this is ultimately one of the most beautiful stories about brotherhood that's ever been fucking told.
I agree. And that's literally what I wrote in my review. It's a poignant, beautiful story of brotherhood.
But then on top of that, it's also about toxic masculinity. It's about...
For sure. Their father is a terrifying force and very much based on reality. That is all pretty autobiographical. He was a very nice man. And
it's about like oppressed motherhood and like the role of a traditional religious mother in a house. And it's about all these other things. And it's just so beautiful. And it's
also a story of enduring love, of that of what comes with grief and how you push through and the sources from which you find that strength.
Also, I think that it thread that needle so perfectly of needing to know or care about pro wrestling.
Yes, and that's where I think I was grateful to have a pro wrestling like understanding because there were little things that I think made it extra fun for me in that sense. But I haven't been a lifelong fan to the point where I've forgotten what it was like to not know those things.
And also,
and so I felt like, you know what? You could go in this and not know a damn thing about it, and it'd be fine.
There were characters that were based on real people that I'm sure you didn't know were real. I'm sure you didn't know when.
Though there was a few that I didn't know were real.
Oh yeah, like Flair and stuff like that.
But there were others too. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But like even seeing some of those, just like you didn't need to have the history to enjoy it. You know.
No.
But yeah, there's the nuance is incredible. I feel like while Zac Efron is rightfully getting a ton of praise for the movie,
every actor,
I don't think that we should sleep on Holt McCallany, who plays Fritz, who plays the father.
Yeah, Holt McCallany is incredible.
He is
terrifying.
So good.
Also, you know, I think Jeremy Allen White is having a moment. I've been a fan of his since he was a wee one on Shameless, and
you've always touted your love for him.
I love him, and I get that some people are starting to get sick of him because anytime someone blows up, that's like, oh, you know, people are like, I don't get it. You should get it because he's incredible and
get on board.
He is a great actor, and he's incredible in this movie.
Yeah, there's another moment too that I spoke with you about too, and I spoke with Coy about it as well, like where I think it does this really, really fun thing that as a writer is, I think, difficult to commit to, and that is like, generally in your story, you want your character to just move in one direction, right? And in this movie, he moves in two directions the entire time, right up until literally the final moment where he course corrects the one. And by the way, I know I did a visual thing where I made my hands like an X, like a pie chart, where one goes up and one goes down, or not a pie chart, a line chart, where the oppression of his father and living under the shadow and living underneath the iron claw, getting out of that, breaking out of it, breaking the curse, being his own man. That is the starts in one way and moves to the other, right? But the toll that the loss takes on him actually undoes the purity in him. In the beginning of the movie, when he goes on his first date with his would-be wife,
Miss Lily James, incredible.
She says to him, "Oh, I bet you this is just what it's like for you as the oldest brother." And he says, present tense, "I'm not the oldest brother. I have an older brother. He died when he was young, and I'm not." And he says, present tense, actively, not the oldest brother, which means in the beginning of the movie, he sees even his lost brother as still a brother.
Yes.
But then at the end of the movie, when he's already overcome the primary part of his journey, I think the true reality of the curses breaking down his psyche is when he tells his boys, I used to be a brother.
Yeah.
Which implies that his perception of what brotherhood is changed. And it's not until his sons say what they say that I think he is actually complete and pure and at a point where we're in a true character resolution.
Yes.
Because even though he overcame all the shit with his dad and all the other stuff and the company and
the moment
career.
You're talking about, he had to have a moment with his father initially to break through the anger part of grief.
Right.
The part you're talking about is acceptance.
Yes.
There's stages of grief.
It's like Dabda,
and that's his moment of acceptance. And and that is why you leave the movie with hope, because it's so emotionally gratifying as a viewer. If you've ever had any ounce of grief in your life, whatever the reasons, I think you'll understand this movie will hit you in that spot. And
also dealing with being aware of generational trauma. In this instance, it's literally this thing.
Literally
it's a curse.
Yeah.
It's a curse, but not wanting to give a name, not wanting to pass along anything from a generation prior to your offspring, to the next generation.
He's a curse breaker, as they say. Yeah.
Oh my God, it's just so good. It's just so impossibly good.
So good. It was a very good way to go out of 2023 for me personally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it felt gratifying.
Yeah, I definitely feel like, 2023 is going to be one of those years that I don't think we realized how incredible. And you and I don't see a lot of new movies either. So there's like, when I did this with Coy, he talked all about like, there's so many movies that right now people are being like, this is huge. This is like a big giant tent pole turning of the, of people's careers. And I think 2023 is going to be like a 99. I think we might not realize it because we're in it currently. But I think years from now, we're going to look back and be like, holy shit, there were so many incredible movies that came out this past year.
I think so too.
And a lot of them we didn't even get to.
And I hope we're on a turning point too, just as far moving forward into 2024 too, of more movies like this. It seems with that and Poor Things and other movies that have come out this year that are more art house and not part of an IP that feel, I mean, I guess you could argue Iron Claw kind of is in a way, but not really. Not really. It's a human story. And I think we're craving that again. You know,
it's the same way Barbie, I don't feel like I mean, even though, yes, it's a huge IP, it's Barbie, it's still an original movie. It's not the seventh in a already successful series.
And the fact that it was nominated for adapted screenplay, some bullshit, but that's a side note. But yeah, I feel like maybe we're on that turning point where audiences, the zeitgeist has changed. We're a bit over the
story we've seen before.
Or not necessarily the themes we've seen before, but
I mean, that's all of art and
storytelling. But seeing fresh takes.
Yeah, I agree. And also, man, you and I, let's talk about this too, because we went and saw Iron Claw, and I think it might have been a couple that were before Napoleon as well. I feel like the action comedy is like really making a comeback in a way that I'm very excited for. There's like that movie with Sam Rockwell about the writer.
Yeah.
There was even The Beekeeper, like the Jason Statham generic action movie. That looks really funny. What else was there? There was like a few like action comedies that we saw trailers for recently, and it was like one after the other. And I thought I actually wrote it in my phone too. I wish I could remember what they all were, and too much time had passed, but there was no trailer.
Yeah, when we saw the Iron Claw, it was all original stuff. It was awesome. You and I both turned to each other and talked about that. It was so funny. We both noticed that.
And they were all like very exciting looking movies.
They all looked really great and fun. There's that one coming out with Emily Blunt.
Oh, right. Yes. Yeah. There's that one. Shit, man. I wish I would have written them all down. I thought I would remember it. All I wrote was not a single pre-existing IP trailer, and I didn't write what they were. I thought I would talk to Coy sooner than when we saw this.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's a ton of really fun, like action adventure. Like sort of the things that used to be must see, like go to the theater, have a great time. They weren't insulting. They're not, reinventing the wheel, but they were like the sorts of movies that kept fucking theaters in business. And they were not just the Marvel stuff.
Yeah.
Which, not this whole podcast is predicated on a love for comic books and comic book culture. So obviously we're not hating on that shit.
No.
It's just it can't carry everything on its back.
No, and arguably, and people may agree or disagree or whatever, and there's some people who hate all of the MCU, but I think there's been a lot more division of good versus bad.
Yeah, it's petered.
There's a bit of a jumping of a shark, I think, and therefore we're in this weird zone, and not to say we ever can't get back, and there certainly will be good ones that come and go, and that's great.
Well, I mean, I think you and I both agree like Loki season 2 is like
Loki was
one of
incredible.
Our favorite things.
Incredible.
And we started doing quantity over quality, and we've talked about that a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, Babers, I love you. Thank you for chatting with me.
Thanks
about
for having
movies
me.
Because Coy was not good at it.
Listen,
we
don't be mad at Coy. You have to forgive him.
I don't have to forgive him.
Yes, you do.
That's
we all
lie.
love Coy.
That's a lie you tell yourselves.
Not everyone's a tech genius like you.
You don't need to be.
Listen, I'm trying to help Coy.
We've been doing it for 3 months this way. One thing that we do have to do, as I alluded to earlier, is it is the first episode of January, first episode of the year. It is time to pick our unpunchable gift horse of the month. Coy and I already did this random drawing on the Lost episode, and so I'm going to honor that because it's only fair. We had already spun the wheel and randomly chose that person. So, before I announce who that person is, if you're not sure what this whole unpunchable gift horse nonsense is about, well, then you got to head on over to patreon.com/Hoeycast. Patreon.com/Hoeycast. There you can join at a variety of different tiers of patronage that offer all sorts of different stuff. But of course, our gift horse tier patrons are entered into this monthly contest where each and every month we put all of the eligible names into a hat and draw a unpunchable gift horse of the month. That unpunchable gift horse has their name in lights in the Discord. You get an item of your choosing from the shop over at dragonwagonshop.com. And of course, you get to select something for Coy and I to discuss on the Patreon-only pod, assuming he can figure out how to record himself. We've got a nice little stockpile of some folks who won it earlier last year and like didn't tell us what they wanted to, watch, and so we had some gaps. So Coy and I have a lot of fun catching up to do, and so there's a lot of fun gift horse inspired viewing in the weeks to come.
Ooh.
Without further ado, would you like to know who the unpunchable gift horse is for January? Alexandra?
I do.
Are you on the edge of your seat? You paid for the whole seat, but you're only going to need the edge of it. The unpunchable gift horse for the month of January 2023 is Craig Arrogant Desperado B. It is Craig Arrogant Desperado.
What a name.
B. It is Craig's third victory. It is his third time being the unpunchable gift horse.
Reigning champion.
And no, he's not reigning champion because he just beat Harold Stokes. That's not how that counts. That's not how that works. This ain't wrestling. It's all randomized. Third time, which shows to show you that there is no limit to how many times you can win this, everybody. Any month that we do this, that you are a gift horse patron, you are entered in to win. At this point, Craig Arrogant Desperado B has got enough merch to open up his own Hoeycast,
his own
store,
gift horse shop.
Keep an eye out on the emails as always, Craig, and thank you so much to you and to everybody for your continued support of the program. Your Patreon dollars go a long way, and let's be honest, it you see what I'm up against here, everybody. Okay, like I really need all the help I can get.
Oh.
And so please consider becoming a patron. And what else can you do? You can follow us all on the social medias. You can find me at Jake Lloyd Bacon. Coy's at Coyjandro. Alexandra is at Alexandra Hoey. Hoey is her last name. If you enjoyed her, hey, check out Me, You, and 30 Other Men. It is a wrestling podcast in which Alexandra and I just watch Royal Rumbles in real time. And just shoot the shit about.
The shit. We judge their outfits.
Oh, it's a lot. Yeah, we did the first half of that series a few years ago. We've been on an undisclosed amount of time hiatus, but we will be finishing that series.
Back,
I mean, there's a finite amount of Rumbles, so if we would have rushed through them all, it would have ended pretty abruptly anyway. But check that out. You can also hear Alexandra on D&DW Pod, which is my favorite show that exists in the whole wide world, Dungeons and Dragon Wagon. It is our D&D inspired live action role playing game that is edited down to sound like a radio drama. We cut out all that nonsense, the table chat, all that irritating.
Speaking of maestros,
yeah,
that's you.
All of that,
Jake Lloyd.
all of that crap that you don't like hearing in other live action role playing games. We cut out that all out.
It makes it a real pretty story.
So you can hear Alexandra play the beautiful human archer Adeline in that.
And you can hear Jake do a kind of interesting hybrid impression of like Beetlejuice and Beavis.
Are you commenting on Junk's voice right now?
Junk.
Because I will bring him to life right now.
Ogre or orc?
And he will throw you.
Was he an orc?
Are you kidding me right now?
I don't remember what his exact.
I have never been more offended.
Oh my God. Whoa, where did Junk come from?
There's a portal that he just came out of my shoulder. How's it going, Junk? Everything's going great, Jake. I miss you, buddy. I miss you too, handsome.
Aww.
Anyways, hey, leave rating and reviews on Apple Podcasts. It would be hilarious if you rated only the episodes Coy's not on of the show called Hoeycast. That'd be fantastic. Also, you can leave comments on Spotify now. So you can go to this episode or any episodes that feature Alexandra Hoey, as we like to call them, Hoeycasts. And you can write how much better these are than all the other episodes. That would bring me joy and also be funny. Hey, if you want to call the hotline, we didn't take any of those calls today, but I think we'll just retake them with Coy, the ones that we did already. You can leave a hotline message at 818-794-0722. That's 818-794-0722. Or you can send a voice memo to contact@hoeycast.com. That's the email, contact@hoeycast.com. And we'll play your hotline
Share your
calls
lovely voices
right on the show. I don't know what the next episode will be. I don't know if Koi's going to want to still do his Letterboxd year-end stats. I might just put the kibosh on that because I don't want to pretend to hear it for the first time again.
No one said you had to. You could just...
That's not true. Koi might say I have to.
You could make a bit of it. You could be like, wow, I didn't know that.
What I'm going to do, I just came up with the fucking greatest idea. I am going to make Koi listen back to my side of the lost episode and just talk along to it.
Okay.
Right? So that he just has to like say all the things he said again in the right order and the right spaces. And anything that's like a non sequitur or like I comment on something that he didn't say, that's his own fault. That actually sounds hilarious. He won't do that, but it would be hilarious. If we were still in person, I'd make him do that.
Okay.
Just for the joy of it, and I would film it and put it on video. No? Well, all right then. You can also check out the shop. Hey, let's not forget about the shop. DragonWagonShop.com, or you just go to Hoeycast.com. Everybody go to Hoeycast.com. That's your one-stop shop. There you can find the link to the shop, the link to the Patreon, all that good stuff. Please consider snagging yourself some sweet merch. We got some new hoodies that are gorgeous. We got mugs. We got phone cases, shirts.
You guys sell the horses on the site?
Yeah. On-site horses. That'll do it. I don't think there's going to be a patron-only episode next week. I apologize because we lost it. But we'll be back in 2 weeks. We'll make good on that. We do apologize, and by we, I do mean I mostly.
You guys should buy Dunkin' Donuts for everybody.
Don't commit me to some nonsense like that. Thanks everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks, babe. Thanks. You're the best. I love you.
Love you. You're the best.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Do good work well.
Dragon Wagon.